I could, Timmy Legs. What is your wish list for the Lakers, Legs?
For the Lakers, I think, listen, if you could possibly trade Russell Westbrook, great, and get something back in return, that's a viable asset, but I don't think it's going to happen. So for me, it's, hey, get your stars healthy and rework everybody from Russell Westbrook on down to get younger legs and some shooting.
How about the Golden State Warriors, the defending champs? What's your wish list for them?
Wish list for them is simple. They've got everything in place to do it again, Greeny, but I think they're going to need this young infusion of talent to not just be guys they're developing. They're going to need them to, I think, be relevant in the playoffs as well. So that means James Wiseman, get him back on the court, incorporate him to the way you play. Jonathan Kuminga, I think, is going to be a star in this league. I think he needs to have a playoff run coming, and then Moses Moody be the other guy. So just get that youth going and know that you can count on him when it matters.
And how about your wish list for the Nets?
You know what I would love to see? Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving stay healthy, stay together, add Ben Simmons, and actually give us another team to talk about that's a real threat to win a championship. But I think short of that, it's sign Kyrie Irving to less than the max, and then you've got to, again, rework everybody not named Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and Ben Simmons. And even in Ben Simmons' case, you're going to need to make sure that he is in the right place to go forward. I would love, my wish list for them, Greeny, is to be relevant, be healthy, get along, and give us another team that we love to watch play because of the talent level.
Okay, and so that's where he sits right now as far as the Nets are concerned. His teammate, Kevin Durant, has a variety of other stuff going on. You may have seen Charles Barkley on this show last Friday making some comments about how KD needs to win a championship as a bus driver in order to get the respect that he wants. Well, that was posted on Twitter, and Kevin Durant responded with this, saying all this stuff is nasty, another terrible analogy from a hating old head that can't accept that we're making more bread than them. It's just timing, Chucky. Don't hate the player. So he posted that. Here's how Barkley responded last night. He was on in the first intermission of the Stanley Cup Final with Steve Levy, Chris Chelios, and Mark Messier.
We've always said how lucky the hockey analysts are. Like Melrose, these guys, they can criticize. They don't hear from his family.
Yeah,
you criticize the NBA.
Yeah, but they tweet about me. Hockey players just want to win. They don't sit around and tweet.
Yeah.
You know, and it does bring up sort of a fascinating question about the state of media today. And we have our hockey player in studio with us. PK Subban has been terrific the last couple of days. And we have Legs from the world of basketball. We have Marcus Spears from the world of football. And Swagoo, I'll start with you as one who has come into this side of it, the media piece of this, fairly recently and, look, candidly, done extraordinarily well at it in a pretty short period of time. What is your perspective as you see KD firing back on someone like Charles and the sort of the state of the relation between where the media is and the star athletes are today?
Yeah. Gee, I mean, obviously the different time with social media and more emphasis put on these guys having their own voices and controlling their own narratives. And unbeknownst to them, seemingly, when someone says something about them that they don't like, we like when you say what's on your mind. You know I do, G. You know I live by that code and that standard. Say what's on your mind, say what you feel. But don't get mad when it's interpreted. Don't get mad when people give opinions about either your reaction or something that you said. That is what the media has been doing forever. I don't understand this new media thing. It's more volume, it's more out there, it's more eyes being put on what you're saying and what you're doing now. And we get that. There's positives that come with that. There's negatives that come with that. But this whole idea, like I hear Draymond talk about it, KD going back and forth on Twitter, which I have no problem with, KD responding on Twitter. None whatsoever. I think sometimes it's way beneath him to do so because it's actually about basketball and no one that's tweeting about KD playing the game of basketball or knowing the game of basketball outside of guys that have done it at the highest level, he should really pay much attention to. But that's neither here nor there. This whole ideology that the new players, the guys that's in the league now, have to be against people at ESPN because they say something that they don't like, or against people at other networks, or against people at Fox, or against people that talk about things on YouTube channels or whatever. That is crazy to me. Gee, when I played for the Dallas Cowboys, bro, I was drafted in the first round, number 20. Guess who was drafted at number 11 with me? DeMarcus Ware. Okay, who's going to get a gold jacket. I was called the bust. I was called the guy that they wasted a draft pick on. We could have got Aaron Rodgers. Remember, he went late 32nd, I think, to the Green Bay Packers. All of these things were being said. And G, you know what it was for me? I agree that could be used as motivation, but I had no ill will. I didn't say that these guys on television is hate. They're giving their opinion. I didn't lose any sleep about it. Every Tuesday, direct deposited hit from the Cowboys. And as long as my coaches, as long as my teammates, as long as the people that I was responsible to have success and do my job at a high level were not complaining, that's all that mattered to me. Yes, I love that they have a voice. Yes, I love that they respond. But ultimately, it ain't no new media, old media. This the same type of conversations that's been going on between folks in media and athletes since the beginning of time. It's just when you had a recorder, G, and you were actually on site, it didn't go to a million places immediately when you put it pen to pad. It took a while for it to circulate.
That's exactly right. PK, let me ask your perspective. You make your home in Toronto.
Yes.
And in Canada, obviously, the hockey players, I think, are dissected and covered differently than they are here, more intensely, similarly to the way the basketball players here are covered. What is your perspective on this?
Well, I think it's also very different in hockey. You know, the NBA has grown exponentially. You know, I remember way back, I think it was in 2004 when the NHL was going through a lockout, and a magazine, Sports Illustrated, had said why the NHL is hot and the NBA is not.
Yeah.
Well, since then, the NBA has really celebrated and promoted its players. And this is what happens, you know. I would much rather have Charles Barkley critiquing my game than having somebody who isn't at that level of Charles Barkley. And in the NHL, we're not really used to seeing players fire back at the media, but this is the new world. This is social media. And I think I would probably be sensitive, you know, if a Hall of Fame athlete was sitting behind a desk and was critical of me, but that's who Charles Barkley is, and that's why we love him. This is the media. The NBA does the best job, as far as I'm concerned, out of all the other sports leagues, of telling a story. It's always drama. That's why we watch Get Up. That's why we watch First Take, is we want to see that story. And the NBA does the best job of marketing its players. This is all marketing for the game, is knowing who Kevin Durant is, knowing who LeBron James is, Steph Curry, and we've seen that now. Guys are more opinionated. That's what we want in the game.
Let me get a thought from you, Legs, again, because you're one of these old heads now who's been doing this for a while, and you played in that era with those guys, and you played against Charles Barkley and all that kind of stuff. What do you hear from these guys as you talk about them and at times offer critical opinions?
Greeny, I know you call me old head with just the greatest reverence and endearment, so I appreciate that. I know how to take that from you. I look at it like this. The problem I have with it from Kevin Durant's perspective is this. You're never going to win it. You're never going to look good. It's not going to put you in a positive light. And it's easy to say because you want to get the hair on your neck up and you want to respond to everybody. And the mechanism to respond is right there in front of you on any mobile device you have. You are now interacting with people in a way in the real time that you never could have during my generation. Look, I heard criticism of myself and other players too. It's just you had to almost seek it out, or somebody had to bring it right to you, right? You had to be catching it at that time in a newspaper, print media, or on TV. That's not the case now. You're getting hit from every avenue out there, from the fans' perspective, media that never played, media that did play, and you're going to respect all of them in a different way. You don't have to respond to it all because at the end of the day, it makes you look insecure. It makes you look like things bother you more than they should. And look, sometimes lines get crossed and you're going to stand up for yourself or your family. I get that. But just general critique, whether it's a former player or not, shouldn't be something that you have to clap back at all the time. I think Kevin Durant's best answer is to go win in this last narrative, right? There's three narratives for great players. One, are you a great player? Check that box for Kevin Durant. Two, are you an integral part of a championship team? Check that box. He's got 2 rings. There's a third one. The third one is, can you build something from scratch and uplift a team that has not been there before to a championship as its best player? Great players carry that weight. That's the one narrative Kevin Durant hasn't answered, and it's the one thing left for him. So just go prove it. Go get a ring in this situation in Brooklyn or somewhere else you choose after that. That's the best way to answer critics.
PK, put a final ribbon on the form.
And he's going to do that. I think the biggest thing in the media as an athlete, that we look for as players is personal biases. You know, you want to read into what people are saying in the media, and is this coming from a place where you're just being critical of me as an athlete and what happens on the court, or is it personal biases? I don't think Charles Barkley has any personal bias against anyone. I think he calls it the way he sees it. But as an athlete, definitely there's some sensitivity to that sometimes. I remember when I signed my contract in Montreal, and one of the first headlines was Alex Kovalev had said, "Why is this guy getting paid $9 million? Just because he makes up for mistakes, he still makes mistakes on the ice." And I grew up watching Alex Kovalev. I used to study his skill tapes, all that stuff. And it was personal to me. At that time, I didn't feel it was necessary for me to go out and do it publicly in the media. But I did feel a little bit like it was a personal shot at me, because there's a lot of other athletes that are making more money that weren't doing what I was doing on the ice. So there's personal bias to it. Marcus, I want to hear what you got to say, man.
Unfortunately, I'm out of time.
Yes.
Marcus, stay close by. Stay close by. We'll try and get back to it here. It's such a fascinating and endless topic, and unfortunately,